The monitor screamed before I did. I woke up to a nurse's palm pressing my sternum, her voice sharp. "Ms. Whitfield, stay with me. Stay with me." My chest felt like someone had parked a car on it. Tubes ran into the back of my hand. The clock on the wall read 9:47 p.m. I had been in surgery for 6 hours after a delivery truck ran a red light on Gratiot Avenue and folded my Honda Civic like a soda can. Before we continue, please hit that like button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. Now let's continue. My name is Deanna Whitfield. I was 29 years old and I was alone. Not no visitors allowed alone. Not it's late alone. Alone like nobody came. I remember grabbing the nurse's wrist, my throat raw from the breathing tube they'd just pulled. Did anybody call my mother? Carla Whitfield. Please, somebody call her. The nurse, a heavy-set woman named Yolanda, with kind eyes and a Detroit Pistons lanyard, squeezed my hand. Baby, we called her 4 times. She picked up once. What did she say? Yolanda hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything before her mouth did. She said she was at a party and would call back. A party? I had 2 shattered ribs, a lacerated spleen they'd removed 40 minutes ago, and a concussion that made the ceiling tiles swim, and my mother had picked up the phone, heard the words, "your daughter," and trauma unit, and gone back to a party. I didn't cry. I want you to understand that. I laid there in that hospital bed with my own blood still drying on the gown they cut off me, and I did not cry. I just stared at the ceiling and started doing math. What party? What night? What was so important that my mother, Carla Whitfield, 40 years my mother, could not leave? Then I remembered the date. October 3rd, my younger sister Simone's engagement party. My phone buzzed on the little rolling tray table before I even had the strength to sit up straight. I made Yolanda hand it to me. 41 unread messages. Not from my mother, not from my father, Robert Whitfield. From the family group chat, Whitfield Fam Har, and every single one of them was about centerpieces, DJ song requests, and whether Simone's dress needed a bustle. I scrolled. My cousin Renee had posted a video of Simone twirling in a champagne-colored gown under fairy lights strung across our aunt's backyard in Southfield. 90 people, a live saxophone player, my father in the video, laughing, holding a plate of ribs. I typed with a shaking thumb, "I'm in the hospital. I had emergency surgery. Can somebody call me?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. My Aunt Pam responded first. "Praying for you, baby. We're mid-toast. We'll call after." Mid-toast. My spleen was in a surgical waste bin, 2 floors down, and my aunt was mid-toast. Then my mother finally texted, 11 minutes later, "Dee, are you being dramatic right now? Simone's night is ruined enough with you texting the group like this. We'll come tomorrow." Ruined enough. Like my accident was an inconvenience scheduled specifically to embarrass my sister. I want to be honest with you. A small, ugly part of me wanted it to be a mistake. Wanted her to say, "Wait, what hospital?" Wanted headlights in the parking lot within the hour. That part of me had been waiting my whole life for my mother to choose me first, just once, over Simone. It didn't come. At 11:52 p.m., my father sent a single message to me, privately, not the group chat. "Proud of your sister tonight. We'll swing by tomorrow, get some rest." He didn't ask if I was okay. He told me he was proud of Simone. I set the phone face down on the blanket, and for the first time since the truck hit me, I let 1 tear fall. Just 1. Then I wiped it, because crying wasn't going to get me a spleen back, and it sure wasn't going to get me a mother. The door creaked open at 1:14 a.m., and I flinched, half hoping, half dreading. It wasn't family. It was Tanya Brooks, my best friend since Cass Tech High School, still in her scrubs from her own 12-hour shift at a different hospital across town, mascara smudged under her eyes from crying in her car in the parking garage before she came up. "I got here as fast as I could," she said, and she didn't ask permission. She just climbed halfway onto the bed and held me like I was made of glass. "Yolanda's my girl from nursing school. She called me the second you came out of surgery. They didn't come, Tay." My voice cracked on the word come. Simone had her party and they didn't come. Tanya went very still. I felt her jaw tighten against my shoulder. "The engagement party? Tonight? Dee, they knew you were in surgery and they stayed at the party? My mama said I was being dramatic." Tanya pulled back and looked at me, and I watched something shift behind her eyes. Not pity, something colder and more useful. Anger on my behalf. "Listen to me," she said, gripping both my hands. "You almost died today. A truck hit you doing 50. You are not dramatic. You are alive, and that is a miracle. And the people who were supposed to show up for that miracle chose ribs and a saxophone player instead." She stayed the whole night in the vinyl recliner, feeding me ice chips, adjusting my pillow, arguing with the nurses on my behalf when my pain meds ran late. At 4 a.m., half asleep, I asked her the question that had been eating me since the accident. Why does everybody choose Simone? My whole life, every single time. Tanya didn't answer right away. When she finally did, her voice was quiet and certain. "Because you let them, Dee. And after tonight, I don't think you're gonna let them anymore." I didn't know yet how right she was. To understand what happened next, you have to understand Simone. My sister was 3 years younger than me, and had been the center of gravity in our house since the day she was born. Growing up in our two-family flat on the east side of Detroit, I remember being 9 years old and giving up my birthday dinner reservation because Simone had a dance recital that ran late. I remember being 14 and getting a B+ on my report card while Simone got a C, and my mother framed Simone's report card because she tried so hard and told me a B+ wasn't anything to celebrate. You're supposed to get A's. By the time I was 22, working 2 jobs to put myself through Wayne State while Simone had her tuition, her car, and her apartment paid for outright, I had stopped expecting fairness. I told myself that's just how families are. Somebody's the responsible one. Somebody's the favorite. I built my whole identity around being the strong one who didn't need anything. Simone wasn't a villain out of a movie. That's the part people don't want to hear. She wasn't cruel to my face. She was worse. She was oblivious, cushioned her entire life by the certainty that she came first, so certain of it that it never occurred to her to check on me even when she found out, 2 days later, that I'd nearly died. Her first text to me, 4 days after my surgery, read, "Heard you were in the hospital. Hope or feeling better. BTW, did you see the pics from my party? The florist killed it, right?" Attached, 17 photos of white roses and gold candlesticks. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I did something I had never done to my sister in 29 years. I didn't respond. My parents finally showed up 8 days after the accident, the day before my discharge, carrying a grocery store balloon that said, "Get well soon," in faded pink letters. My mother, Carla, breezed in like she was doing me a favor, kissed my forehead, and immediately started talking about how exhausting party planning had been. My father, Robert, sat in the corner chair scrolling his phone, occasionally grunting in agreement. "You look better," my mother said, studying me the way you'd study a stranger, the colors back in your face. "I almost died, Mama." "But you didn't," she said, breezy, dismissive, already reaching into her purse for her ringing phone. "God is good." That's when I asked the question I'd been holding for 8 days, the one that had kept me up every night replaying the moment Yolanda told me about the 4 missed calls. "Why didn't you come?" My mother sighed like I was being a burden even by asking. "Deanna, I told you. We found out mid-celebration. We weren't about to shut the whole thing down and traumatize Simone on her engagement night over what the doctors already told us wasn't life-threatening at that point. It was life-threatening. They removed my spleen. I flatlined for 11 seconds in the ambulance, Mama. 11 seconds. The room went quiet. My father finally looked up from his phone. My mother's face didn't crumble the way I needed it to. Instead, something colder crossed it. Irritation, like I'd deliberately embarrassed her by almost dying on the wrong night. "You always do this," she said. "You always make everything a competition with your sister. She finally gets her moment, and somehow it becomes about you being in an accident that, by the grace of God, you survived just fine." I sat up in that bed, ribs screaming, and I said the words that would end up changing everything. "Get out of my room." "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Get out. Both of you. And don't come back." Word travels fast in a family with a group chat. Within an hour of my parents storming out, my phone was flooded. My Aunt Pam calling me ungrateful and always looking for attention. My cousin Renee, who I hadn't spoken to since her own wedding, where I'd flown in from Chicago on my own dime to be a bridesmaid, accused me of trying to ruin Simone's engagement season. Again. As if my near-death experience was a recurring pattern of sabotage. Then Simone herself called, and I almost didn't pick up. When I did, her voice was pure venom, none of the sweet, oblivious girl I grew up half raising. "You know what you did? Mama's been crying all day. My fiancé's family thinks our family is dysfunctional now because you had to make a scene." "Simone," I said, and I remember my voice was shockingly calm, calmer than I felt. I flatlined for 11 seconds. Nobody in this family came to the hospital for 8 days. "So what? You want a medal for surviving?" "Everybody survives stuff, Dee. I had a whole panic attack the week before my party, stressing about seating charts. You don't hear me making it a whole thing." I sat with that sentence for a long moment, the audacity of it, the total absence of self-awareness. A seating chart. She compared her seating chart anxiety to my flatline. "I hope your marriage is everything you want it to be," I told her, and I meant it, strangely, even then. "But I need you to lose my number." She laughed. Actually laughed, thinking I was being theatrical. "You'll be back. You always come back. You need us." I hung up without responding, because for the first time in 29 years, I genuinely wasn't sure that was true anymore. Tanya picked me up from the hospital the next morning in her beat-up Nissan Altima, a scarf wrapped around my midsection where the incisions still pulled with every breath, and drove me not to my apartment, but to a Coney Island on Woodward, because she said I needed pancakes and clarity in that order. "You did the right thing," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "But I need to ask you something, and I need you to really think before you answer. Okay, do you actually want them gone? Or do you want them to finally, for once, act like you matter, and if they did, would you let them back in tomorrow?" I opened my mouth to answer fast, the way I always did, and then I stopped, because I realized I didn't actually know. 29 years of being the responsible one, the strong one, the one who didn't need anything, had trained me to forgive fast and forget faster, just to keep the peace, just to stay in the family photo. "I don't know," I admitted. "I've never let myself imagine a version of my life without them in it." "Then imagine it now," Tanya said, "because Dee, listen to me. I watched you almost die on a table while your mother ate ribs at a party. I don't say that to be cruel. I say it because you keep asking why they don't show up for you, and the real question is why you keep showing up for them." That night, alone in my apartment for the first time in 3 weeks, I made a list. Not a dramatic list, not a revenge list. A simple list of every time in my adult life my family had chosen Simone, chosen convenience, chosen themselves, over me. It filled 4 pages. I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. 3 weeks after I'd blocked most of my family, still healing, still working part-time from home while my body recovered, my mother resurfaced, not to apologize, but because Simone's bridal shower was coming up, and, apparently, my mother had told the whole extended family I'd be catering it, using my small home-based baking business, for free, as a peace offering. I found out through a cousin's Instagram story, an actual flyer with my business logo on it, Deanna's Sweet Table, advertising a shower I had never agreed to cater, for a woman who had never called to check if I survived surgery. I called my mother, furious, in a way I hadn't allowed myself to be yet. "You put my business on a flyer without asking me? Deanna, it's a peace offering. This is how we fix things in this family. You do something nice, everybody moves on. I didn't agree to this." "Well, it's already out. People are expecting it. Are you really going to embarrass Simone again over cupcakes?" Again, there it was again, that word. Like I was the villain of a story where I'd nearly died and nobody came. But it was her next sentence that did it, the one that became the breaking point, the one I'll remember for the rest of my life. "You know," my mother said, her voice dropping into something almost gentle, almost reasonable, which made it so much worse. "Some of us think you're still bitter about the accident, because deep down, you wish it had happened to Simone instead. Maybe get some help for that." I stood in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, and I felt something inside me go completely, permanently quiet. "I hope you never say those words to me again," I said, "because I promise you, this is the last conversation we'll ever have." I didn't do anything explosive. No confrontation at the shower, no viral video, no public airing. I want to be clear about that, because the quiet way is so much more powerful than people expect. I emailed my mother, my father, my sister, my aunt, and my cousin one final message, the only communication I sent after that phone call. It was 3 sentences long. "I will not be catering the shower or attending any future family events. Please do not contact me again unless it's an emergency, and even then, I may not respond, given the precedent. I wish you all well, genuinely, from a distance." Then I blocked every one of them, phone numbers, social media, email. Eventually, when my mother tried sending just to check in messages that were really just guilt-laced attempts to get me to relent. The shower happened without a dessert table. I heard, secondhand through Tanya, who still had one foot in that world through a mutual cousin, that it was a little bare, and that my mother told people I was going through something. I was going through something, all right. I was healing, physically, from the surgery. Emotionally, from 29 years of coming second in a family that only remembered I existed when they needed something from me. 3 months later, my father tried one more time, showing up unannounced at my apartment building, buzzing my intercom for 10 straight minutes. I watched him through my window, an old man standing on a Detroit sidewalk in November, and for the first time in my life, I felt something other than obligation looking at him. I felt sad, genuinely sad, for the family we could have been. Then I felt clear. I didn't buzz him up. It's been 14 months now since the accident, since the 11 seconds, since the party. My baking business, Deanna's Sweet Table, tripled in size after I finally had the emotional bandwidth to actually build it instead of pouring myself into a family that treated my effort as background noise. I have a storefront now, a small one, on Livernois, with my name on the window in gold letters. Tanya is my business partner. Yolanda, the nurse who held my hand that first terrifying night, is one of my closest friends and my daughter's godmother. Yes, I have a daughter now, born 8 months ago, with a man named Marcus, who I met at a grief support group I started attending after everything happened, who has never once, not one single time, made me feel like I came second to anything. I heard, through the grapevine that never fully disappears, that Simone's marriage struggled within its first year, that the golden treatment she'd always received hadn't prepared her for a partner who expected reciprocity instead of worship. I felt nothing when I heard it, not satisfaction, not sadness, just distance, the clean kind, the kind that means you've actually healed. My mother reached out once more, through my father's cousin, asking to meet her granddaughter. I thought about it for a long time, sitting with my daughter asleep on my chest, and I realized something important. Love without accountability isn't love, it's just proximity. I wasn't willing to hand my daughter into a family that had once told a dying woman she was being dramatic. I said no. If you're watching this and you've ever sat in a hospital bed, literal or figurative, waiting for people who never came, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not dramatic for wanting to matter to the people who are supposed to love you first. You are not selfish for choosing peace over proximity. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't screaming, isn't revenge, isn't burning it all down in front of an audience. Sometimes it's just quietly, permanently, choosing yourself, and never looking back. Thanks for staying with me until the very end. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button, subscribe for more stories like this, and share your thoughts in the comments. How do you think it all ended? See you in the next one.